In the early 7th century, the Arabian Peninsula was a land of scattered tribes, tribal wars, and idol worship. But from the heart of this vast desert, a voice emerged, a message that would forever change the course of history. It was Muhammad ibn Abdullah's message of monotheism, a message that united hearts, ended tribal divisions, and laid the foundation for a new nation that, within decades, would stretch from the Atlantic Ocean to the borders of China. In less than a century, Islam became a global power not just by the sword, but by faith, by justice, and by an idea that resonated deeply with people across continents. Under the leadership of the Rashidun caliphs, the early Islamic state established a foundation of justice, consultation, and equality. Then came the Umayyads, who expanded the Muslim world to the gates of Europe. But the true transformation began with the Abbasids, when Baghdad became the intellectual heart of the world. During the Abbasid Caliphate, the golden age of Islam was born. The House of Wisdom was established, and Muslim scholars began translating the knowledge of the Greeks, Persians, and Indians, and then surpassed it. In mathematics, Al-Khwarizmi laid the foundations of algebra. In medicine, Ibn Sina's canon of medicine became a reference in East and West. In astronomy, Al-Biruni and Al-Farghani charted the stars with stunning accuracy. This was not a civilization of isolation, but one of exchange, innovation, and connection. In Al-Andalus, Islamic Spain, where Muslim, Christian, and Jewish cultures coexisted, arts and architecture, while much of Europe was still in the shadows of the Dark Ages, was a beacon of light, with its libraries, universities, and vibrant cultural life. In the East, powerful Islamic empires rose. The Fatimids, who founded Cairo, the Seljuks, who protected and revived the Abbasid Caliphate, and later, the mighty Ottoman Empire, which united the Muslim world under one banner for nearly 6 centuries. But history is not always a steady climb. Just as the Islamic world reached its peak, it also faced fragmentation, invasions, and colonization. Baghdad fell to the Mongols, and centuries later, European colonial powers divided and ruled much of the Muslim world. Yet, the spirit of Islamic civilization never truly died. Today, the Islamic world spans over 50 countries and includes nearly 2 billion Muslims, different cultures, ethnicities, and languages, yet united by a common faith and a shared legacy. The legacy of the Islamic world isn't only found in old books or ancient cities. It lives on in its values: justice, knowledge, mercy, coexistence, and in a world torn by division and confusion. Those values matter now more than ever.
While the Islamic world expanded politically, it also rose intellectually, producing scholars whose ideas would echo far beyond the borders of their empires. From Baghdad to Muslim thinkers preserved, expanded, and revolutionized human knowledge. Al-Khwarizmi, the father of algebra, introduced concepts that would shape mathematics in both East and West. The very word algorithm comes from his name, a foundation of modern computing. Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, wrote the Canon of Medicine, a medical encyclopedia taught in European universities for centuries. Al-Razi, or Rhazes, pioneered clinical medicine, distinguishing between diseases like smallpox and measles, a groundbreaking achievement in medieval healthcare. In philosophy, Ibn Rushd revived Aristotelian logic and sparked intellectual debates in Europe, especially in Christian scholasticism. His writings heavily influenced thinkers like Thomas Aquinas. In optics, Ibn Alhazen laid the foundation for the scientific method and modern physics. He argued that vision occurs when light reflects off an object into the eyes, contradicting centuries of Greek theories. Meanwhile, in Al-Andalus, cities like Toledo and Granada became hubs where Muslims, Christians, and Jews translated and transmitted knowledge. Here, ancient Greek, Roman, and Persian texts were preserved and reintroduced to Europe through Arabic translations. These translations, carried into Europe through Sicily and Spain, helped ignite the European Renaissance. They inspired advancements in science, architecture, astronomy, and philosophy, all thanks to centuries of Islamic scholarship. The Islamic world was not just preserving knowledge, it was creating it. And through peaceful exchange, trade, and translation, it profoundly shaped the intellectual rebirth of Europe, while Europe lingered in what it later called the Dark Ages. The Islamic world lit torches of knowledge that would one day ignite the European Renaissance. From the 8th to the 13th century, Islamic scholars preserved and expanded upon the legacy of the ancient world, translating Greek, Persian, and Indian works into Arabic, then developing entirely new fields of thought. Among the most influential was Al-Khwarizmi, known as the philosopher of the Arabs. He introduced Greek philosophy to the Islamic world and laid early foundations for rational thought. Al-Farabi wrote extensively on politics, metaphysics, and logic, blending Aristotelian and Platonic ideas with Islamic theology, a synthesis that would influence both Islamic and Christian scholastic traditions. Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, was not only a physician but a philosopher and logician. His canon of medicine remained a standard in European medical schools like Montpellier and Bologna until the 17th century. Al-Razi, or Rhazes, identified alcohol as a medical substance and introduced experimental medicine and clinical observation, centuries before these methods were formalized in Europe. In optics and physics and in Spain, the translation movement flourished. In cities like Toledo, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish scholars worked side by side to translate Arabic texts into Latin. This knowledge, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, flowed into Europe, fueling what would later become the Renaissance. In truth, the Renaissance did not begin in Florence. It began centuries earlier in Baghdad and Cairo, where Muslim scholars asked questions, tested theories, and preserved the wisdom of the past for future generations. The Islamic world was not just a guardian of ancient knowledge, it was the bridge through which civilization moved forward.